Hi guys, welcome to CCIE HUB. In today's session, we are learning what is Cisco Firepower NGIPS. NGIPS stands for Next Generation Intrusion Prevention System. It helps you to prevent from the network attacks. So let's see further what are the features. Now, if I talk about how the technology was evolved in Cisco, I'll give you some informations over here. Earlier in when I talk about in the 90s, okay, when I talk about in 90s or after 2000, you can say around 2000, there was there was a PIX firewall, okay, and there was a separate VPN box. Understood? These were the two different boxes. Guys, right now I'm telling you a history about Cisco, from where NGIPS got evolved, how firewall got evolved, and what is the current scenario. This is what I'm trying to explain you here. So in the 90s, in 2000 around, okay, we had a PIX firewall and we had a separate box of VPN. Understood? They were not a single box. And later, by 2005, Cisco came up with a new box or a new device called Cisco ASA, in which they converged these two things, these two informations, firewall and VPN, into a single box, and they created a single box as a ASA in 2005. Okay. So since 2005, Cisco was having Cisco ASA firewall, which was not a next generation firewall. Okay. Now, later what happened? Cisco acquired Snort as well. Snort is one of the first engine who actually introduced an open source for the content filtering. It was done by Snort itself. So Snort created a company called Firepower, and Firepower company was later acquired by, not Firepower, there was a company called SourceFire. This company used an Snort engine inside Firepower, okay, and later Firepower was acquired by, or SourceFire was acquired by Cisco. Okay, right now we call it as a Firepower. Earlier it was called as a SourceFire. Okay, so around 2013, when there was a requirement of next generation devices, that time Cisco didn't had their own next generation firewall or IPS. So Cisco acquired a SourceFire company, and later they gave a name as a Firepower. Understood? They gave a name as a Firepower. So now this Firepower with Snort engine, now this came up with, a dedicated NGIPS device. You can see from here, we had a dedicated NGIPS device. These are the hardware model numbers of your NGIPS. So here we understood ASA, here we understood NGIPS. So later what Cisco did is, they converged two operating systems, right? They took features from ASA and they took features from Snort, and they created one single device called as a FTD. So this is how next generation firewall or FTD was created. So if you guys are purchasing FTD, okay, if you are purchasing FTD, that is equal to ASA plus NGIPS. These two devices are together. That is called FTD. Okay. But in a market, we have different devices. Now, different devices, we have a separate ASA, we have a separate FTD, and we have a separate NGIPS. Now, why do they have these separate devices? If FTD has everything, then we can directly go for FTD, right? Why to go for NGIPS? Now, simple logic. If I already have a firewall in my network, in an existing network, then I don't have to buy another firewall. I can go with NGIPS. Okay, NGIPS. Directly I can buy. So NGIPS is a layer 2 device which does a filtering till, okay, it does a filtering till layer 7. It does a filtering till layer 7. Understood? But technically it's a layer 2 device. So how technologies got evolved, I believe that is clear. First ASA got evolved, then SNOT got evolved, and both were two new devices, NGIPS and ASA, and later these two got converged for a FTD. This is how FTD was created. Okay. Now let's see next slide. Now I'm talking about dedicated NGIPS, guys. Okay. In this NGIPS, this is a front panel of NGIPS where you can see. See, earlier it was written as a source fire. Can you see here? Earlier it was written as a source fire, because earlier source fire was the company who created this NGIPS. Later Cisco had acquired it and given a name as a Firepower, right? But initially it was known as a source fire. Now we call it as a Firepower. Okay. Now here you can see in NGIPS we have multiple interfaces. You can see we have multiple interfaces inside the NGIPS. Now these interfaces are not our data interfaces, these are sensors. That's why it's written here sensing interface. Sensing interface in the sense, here these interfaces are deployed in such a way where it will receive the packet and it will transmit the packet. Okay, it will enter through one interface, exit through other interface. This is called inline deployment. Inline deployment. See, in IPS, if you enter a data through one interface and exit through the other interface, this type of deployment is called inline deployment. This is called inline deployment. And this inline is also called as a IPS deployment. This is IPS. See, box is IPS, that is fine, but deployment is also called as a intrusion prevention. In this case, data has to pass through one interface and exit through other interface. This is called IPS deployment. Now, when I talk about what is IDS, intrusion detection system. Intrusion detection system, we need only one interface. Only one interface. I can deploy it as a IDS, where it will only receive a packet. Only, here you can see, in IDS mode, your data will be received at a single interface. Okay, single interface will be used. And this interface will monitor your traffic. It will work with copy of packets. Copy of packets. It won't work with the real packet. No, it will work with copy of packets. So this is basically called as a IDS. Okay. So here we have multiple sensing interfaces. Here we have a management interface. In IPS device, one thing you should understand, at these sensing interfaces, we don't define any IP addresses. No. Here, no IP. No IP. We assign IP only at management interface. Only here we assign IP. You configure IP only at this management interface, not at the sensing interfaces. Okay. Now further I'll tell you why. Now let's see the next slide. So see, this is the deployment of NGIPS. Okay, here I have shown you a small deployment where NGIPS should be deployed in a network. assume this is your ASA firewall and this is your LAN network. This is your LAN network. You can see this is your LAN network and this is your WAN network where I have connected with the internet, right? Now, between my LAN and the ASA, my gateway, I have deployed NGIPS. I have deployed NGIPS. So in NGIPS, I'll have one interface, other interface, and in between, I'll deploy policy. In between, I'll deploy policy. Okay. So this will act as a layer 2 device. This will act as a layer 2 device. Understood? And this layer 2 device will help to protect your data. So whenever any data, if it is going internal to external or any data coming from external to internal, it has to pass through your NGIPS. So NGIPS is deployed. See, there are multiple ways of deploying NGIPS, IPS, IDS deployments. So in other video, I'll be explaining what are the actual features of NGIPS, why do we need, what does NGIPS do. In today's video, I have tried making you understand where NGIPS can be deployed in a network. Like a router is deployed in a network as a edge device, firewall is deployed as a edge device. But I can't deploy NGIPS as a edge device because it's a layer 2 device, and this should be deployed where? Either after the firewall, or I can have before the firewall also. Here also I can deploy, but it depends in what sense you guys are deploying the NGIPS. Here my intention is to protect only my internal network. So I deployed NGIPS L2 device between my internal and the gateway device. So here I can apply all the type of filterings. I can do antivirus filtering. I can do any virus filterings. I can do any type of intrusion preventions that you guys want. So you have to basically enable the signatures over here. Here we'll have a database of signatures, different type of categories of signatures we'll have, right? So later I'll explain about those part. Basically right now you need to understand the work of NGIPS here is to protect your network from the malwares, attacks, vulnerabilities, ransomware, multiple type of attacks. Here NGIP, your ASA is not a next generation firewall. This is not a next generation firewall, guys. This is just a firewall. This is only a stateful firewall. It's an stateful firewall, not a next generation firewall. So in order to protect the network, or in order to have a security in a network, I have deployed ASA with IPS. This is NGIPS, next generation IPS. Okay, so these two combination can fully protect your network. So in the next class, I'll teach you guys what are the features of NGIPS, right? And how can I deploy, many more things I'll be showing you. Till then, stay tuned. Thank you.